Good morning, everybody. This is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm back here for another section of our Benny's Bats. The idea of this video is we try to look at all the pitchers that are on the mound tonight, figure out what their weakness is, and then figure out which batters on the other team profile to do the best against them. We don't have a huge slate today. There's a split slate. There's 5 games in the afternoon and 5 games at night, and we're going to be concentrating on the games that are going on tonight. So the video is going to be a little shorter than usual, but I'm going to go a little more in depth into some of the stats and some of the numbers to kind of give you guys an idea of some of the guys in the best spots who should be the cornerstones to build your rosters around tonight. First guy we're going to start with is Jose Urena. He's pitching for the Marlins, goes up against Atlanta today. Right-handed bats have been doing the best against him. I mean, he's been getting knocked around. 330 batting average, 1.54 whip to guys from the right side of the plate. But looking at that Atlanta team, there really aren't a lot of bats that you really want to target. I mean, again, against the right-handed pitcher, the guys who stand out most are guys like A.J. Pierzynski and Nick Markakis. But again, neither one of these guys is somebody who I really want to throw in my roster. Pierzynski's been batting in the 3-hole lately with Freddie Freeman out. Markakis has been leading off. He finally has 2 home runs. It took him about 2.5 months to hit his first one. Now he has 2 so far on the season, but neither one of these guys are huge upside plays that I'd really want to put in my roster. And I really did want to try to target some of these Atlanta bats going up against Urena, but I don't really see anybody who really stands out to me. Like I said, Pierzynski and Markakis are the 2 guys who probably have the best numbers, but neither one of them are huge upside plays. If you can find them cheap wherever you're playing, I mean, I guess they make for a decent option today, but, it's not guys that I'm jumping to make sure I put into my rosters. Next guy we can talk about is the rookie, Aaron Brooks. Brooks really got lit up in his first start. Right-handed bats have a 444 batting average against him with a whip of 2.00. Again, he's only pitched, I think he's at about 10 innings so far in a major league, so you don't want to put too much stock into a bad start. But, again, he did get knocked around a little bit. So you got to think that unless he figures it out, there's a good chance that could happen today. The one guy who really stands out to me, the righty-on-righty matchup, is Carlos Correa. Correa has a 370 WOBA with a 256 ISO number in righty-on-righty matchups. Again, against right-handed pitching, we usually like to look at guys like Preston Tucker. Tucker got hurt. He's listed as day-to-day right now. He left the game early, so I don't know if he's going to be in there. If you want to go for a bat like Luis Valbuena, he does have the home run upside, although he hasn't been hitting a lot of them lately. But his batting average is so bad that I would never use him in a cash game, maybe for a tournament if you're looking for a cheap option. The other guy who kind of stands out a little bit is Hank Conger. Conger's been hitting it well lately, has a really high WOBA, really high ISO, and limited at-bats, limited plate appearances so far. But he's another guy who you can look at as well. I think that Houston offense can get a couple runs, so maybe even a guy like Altuve up top, or Gomez, who's been doing pretty well since coming over to the Astros as well. But again, based on the numbers, the only guy who really stands out is Carlos Correa. Next team we can talk about, we got Scott Feldman going up. Feldman's allowed a 288 batting average to each side of the plate, 9 home runs in 78 innings pitched, and he goes up against an Oakland team that's really, really struggling. The 2 guys who stand out on the numbers are Josh Reddick, 374 WOBA, 197 ISO, and Stephen Vogt with a 360 WOBA and a 217 ISO. The problem I have with this Oakland team is they have been, when I say ice cold, I mean absolutely ice cold. Everybody on this team has seen their numbers suffer lately. They've had a lot of games where, they put up 1 or no runs, just really, really have been struggling. It's a good matchup for them. Feldman's not a guy who you want to try to stay away from. He's usually somebody that we look to target. But playing Oakland in Oakland, which is not a good hitter's park, I just don't see a ton of upside on this Oakland team. Like I said, there's only 10 games on the slate today, and a lot of them are not in great situations where you're expecting a lot of runs. Vegas doesn't have a lot of high totals on most of these games today, so I think that, it's going to be a little bit tough. Again, looking at the numbers, the 2 guys that stand out are Reddick and Vogt. But again, neither one of them has been hitting it very well lately. If I had to choose one over the other, I think Reddick's in a little bit of a better spot. I don't know what's wrong with Stephen Vogt, but if you even watch him at the plate, he just doesn't look right. So if you watched him, you understand why he, basically has seen his WOBA come down from 400 to 360 in a couple weeks. Next guy we can talk about, and somebody who I think you can target against a little bit, is CC Sabathia. Sabathia's allowed right-handed bats to hit 331 against him, with 21 home runs allowed and only 88 innings worth of work. There are two big right-handed bats on that Boston team who you want to look at that profile well against the lefty. The first one is Xander Bogaerts, 411 WOBA for him and a 119 ISO. So this is a guy that's just been racking up the hits whenever they face left-handed pitching. Again, he's been batting in the 3-hole for them lately. He's been doing a lot of work, been doing damage, getting some RBI, scoring a couple runs, and he definitely gets on base. He sees the ball very well against left-handers. So I definitely think he's probably one of the better shortstop options that you have on the day-to-day. I like the fact that his price isn't too bad. He's not too expensive on any of the sites. He's not a cheap option per se, but again, you're not paying up to the top dollar for him. So Correa is probably the top shortstop option on the day. But if you can't afford or you don't want to pay up for Correa, I think that Xander Bogaerts makes a really nice swerve off him. Another guy who's starting to pick it up lately and somebody that I think you need to consider, especially in this matchup, is Mike Napoli. Napoli has a 370 WOBA with a 280 ISO number. He's started hitting a couple home runs. He's starting to get back into it. I mean, he was horrible the first half of the season. But he's been picking it up as of late, and they really need him to because they don't have a ton of big right-handed bats in that Boston lineup. He was one of the guys they were counting on to give them some power and have a good average against left-handers, and he didn't through the first half. But so far lately, he has been hitting pretty well. I actually really like a lot of these Boston bats over on Fantasy Feud today. I think a lot of them are very well priced. I think you get a really good value, and again, CeCe's been a guy, especially at home, who's been prone to getting lit up a little bit. So I think you can use them there. For those of you who don't know, if you haven't signed up yet at Fantasy Feud, over at RotoCurve, we're offering a great promo for the Fantasy Feud site. You get a 100% deposit bonus up to $500. And if you sign up through our links, you'll also get a free $25 cash to try out the site and see what you like. And we're also in the forums every day. We have a lot of people posting about Fantasy Feud. We're looking to get some feedback. The guys from Fantasy Feud are over in our forums as well. So if you have any questions or any comments that you want to make, feel free to drop them into the forum. Those guys will see them. They'll either get back to us or get back to you, asking you to elaborate on it a little bit. They're really trying to do everything they can to make it a better site for the players. And, a lot of the guys from our community have joined over there and have nothing but good things to say about it. When you do sign up, if you don't have a new account, make sure you use the promo code CURVE when you do it, and you'll be able to get all those bonuses that we talked about over there. They are hosting a $500,000 championship a little bit later this month. I think there's still about 15 or 16 seats left. And the thing that they do that I really like is they put different price points every day. So yesterday it was a $525 price point on the qualifier with only about 40 entries. So a lot of the guys with the big bankroll that wanted to take a shot at it, that was their chance to do so. The qualifier this Friday is a $109 qualifier, so it's a little bit more bankroll friendly for the average player. They also run satellites every day to get into it. So, for $3 or $5, you can get in a 15 or 20 man satellite. And, if you're lucky enough to take that down, you get a ticket to go and play in the big qualifier and, try to make your way into that $500,000 final that they're having with a $150,000 first place prize. I think it's actually the third biggest prize pool out of any of the sites that we have for daily fantasy right now. So it's definitely not something to sneeze at. And, like I said, take a look, come over there. They told us that they're going to be doing something big for football season too. So you might as well get over there now and start earning your keep. Remember, it's a 100% deposit bonus up to $500. So even if you're not a big MLB guy, you put the $500 in now, you'll still have it in there for you for NFL season. And, you'll be able to go and attack it. There has been a little bit of overlay over there as well, which, something as daily fantasy players that we try to look for, getting the most value for our buck. And the Fantasy Feud guys have been able to offer that lately. So I definitely think it's a site worth checking out. Let's see. The next guy we can talk about is Matt Whistler. Whistler struggled with left-handed bats this year, 293 average, 4 home runs in only 20 innings with a whip of 1.60. There's a couple left-handed bats on that Marlins team that I think you can look at. The guy who I like the most is Derek Dietrich. He's got a 359 WOBA with a 231 ISO number. He's basically become like a de facto everyday player over there right now, and he has had some big hits against right-handed pitching. You can look at a guy like Justin Bour as well. He's the guy that gives you some home run power. Christian Yelich has been hitting it really well lately. He missed a big portion of the early year with an injury, but he was a guy that a lot of people had as one of their breakout stars for this year based on how he played last year. They got him hitting in the 3-hole now with Giancarlo Stanton out, and he's been getting some big hits and producing. He's had a couple multi-hit games recently, and he really looks comfortable again at the plate. So he's somebody else you can consider. D. Gordon is back. You got Ichiro Suzuki. So there's a lot of left-handed bats that they can throw at Whistler today. It's going to be interesting to see how they do put that lineup up. With the 5 guys I just mentioned, they could theoretically throw 5 left-handed bats up at the top of the order, which would make it a really long day for the rookie from Atlanta. Next guy we can look at is Kyle Gibson. Gibson has allowed right-handed bats to hit 273 against him with the 1.30 whip. And he's up in Toronto today to face that, vaunted Toronto offense. So there's a lot of guys in that Toronto offense that we can look at. Same guys that we look at every day. Obviously, they're better against left-handers, but they showed us last night that, the slugging and the home run potential that they have works against right-handers as well. You got a home run last night from Joey Batista. Joey Bats has a 370 WOBA, 284 ISO number, so he's somebody that's in play. You got a home run last night from Josh Donaldson. Donaldson has a 373 WOBA with a 248 ISO. So he's another guy that's in play here against Gibson. You could also look at Troy Tulowitzki, who just came over. Again, he's leading off, so he's getting that extra at-bat, and he is one of the best hitters in the league. So you're going to give an extra at-bat to one of the best hitters in the league and one of the best ballparks to hit in. While most people are saying it's a downgrade for him, moving from from Coors to the Rogers Center, it's probably the smallest downgrade of any place that he could have wound up being traded to. It's definitely a better landing spot for a hitter than if he would have got traded to the Mets and wound up at Citi Field. The last guy you can look at too, Chris Colabello is having a breakout year. 362 WOBA, 164 ISO number. He's another guy that you got to consider, another guy that you can put in there because he really has been that good today. Let's see. We got Mark Burley going up on the other side of that game. He's allowed right-handed bats to hit 267 against them, and he's given up 7 home runs to each side of the plate. So I think you do want to take a look at some of those righties on the top of the order. The one thing I want to throw out there is, people are probably going to talk about Miguel Sano today. He's somebody who, has been hot. He's batting cleanup for the Twins, had a couple home runs, hit another one yesterday. But if you look at his numbers, he's a righty-on-righty reverse splits kind of guy. He does not hit all that well against left-handed pitching. At least he hasn't so far in the majors. So I don't think he would be one of the guys that I would look to use. The 2 guys that I would like to use on that Twins team, though, you got Aaron Hicks, who's either hitting in the 1 or the 2 spot in that order. He has a 438 WOBA right now with a 206 ISO score. So he's definitely somebody that's in play. I know on Fantasy Aces he was really cheap yesterday. It was like 37 or 3,800. So if you can get a guy at that price, it's going to open up a lot of space for you to pay up for some pitching or to go up and put, some of those big bats like the Batistas and the Donaldsons that we just talked about or the Tulos into your lineup. The other guy you can look at who's a lot more expensive on basically every site, one of the top 2 or 3 second base options is Brian Dozier. 374 WOBA, 254 ISO number. So those are probably some of the best numbers you're going to see out of the second base position this season. So definitely somebody that you got to consider if you can afford to pay up for him. Like I said, he has the upside that it makes some sense to do so. If you can't afford to pay up for him, though, there are other options at second base that you can go that are much cheaper. Second base is not a position that I usually like to pay up for. I think you can usually find some pretty good value. And even if it's not obvious now, when lineups come out, you're usually going to be able to find 1 or 2 of those guys pretty high up in the order at a pretty square price, depending on what site you're playing on. And also second base, if you look across the site, second base is one of those positions where, the pricing on guys on a daily basis is pretty erratic. You might have a guy who's like 2nd or 3rd on the list today on a certain site that might be 6th or 7th on another site, and you might have a guy who's 2nd or 3rd today that tomorrow or 2 days from now is the 9th or 10th most expensive option. So of all the positions, this is probably the one, along with shortstop, where we see the most volatility and the most change in the pricing from day to day. Let's see, the next guy we got Eduardo Rodriguez going up against the Yankees. The young lefty's actually been pretty good. Right-handed bats have hit him a little bit better in his minor league career. In the majors, he's actually been a little bit tougher average-wise against them. But, that's still the way I would go. I don't think he's a reverse splits guy where I'd be looking to roll out all these lefties. I think you want to look at the right-handed bats. He's given up a 230 average, 5 home runs in 50 innings. But there's a couple guys on the Yankees that you automatically consider anytime they're going up against a lefty. The first one and a cheap option on basically all the sites. His price has come up a little bit on places. He's not as cheap as he was. He's not below 4,000 on Aces anymore. I think he's up to somewhere around the 4s. Somewhere around the high 3s over on FanDuel. I didn't check his price this morning on DraftKings. I know he was only like 31 or 3,300 last time out. I'm hoping that he's still down there because it would make him one of the best value plays on the day. And, the guy that we're talking about here is Chris Young. He's got a 473 WOBA with a 324 ISO number against left-handed pitching. So those are absolutely phenomenal numbers. He has been smashing lefties all season, basically owns them, and is somebody who you basically almost plug and play into your lineup whenever they're facing a left-handed pitcher. Alex Rodriguez, another one of those guys, right-handed bats that has been crushing lefties. 449 WOBA for him, 356 ISO number, so he's been hitting for average and power. And the other guy you can look at is Mark Teixeira. Teixeira's 365 WOBA, 211 ISO. And the other thing I want you guys to consider here too is Rodriguez will probably face Tex 2, maybe 3 times through the first 6 or 7 innings. At that point, you're going to bring in some relievers, and most of the relievers that you have in that Boston Red Sox pen are right-handed relievers. So you might get an at-bat or 2 at a Tex from the left side, which is where he's really been smashing the ball, especially at home in Yankee Stadium. So I think that those are the 3 guys that I would really look at, and I think all 3 of them are in play, and all 3 of them are going to be popular, and rightly so today, especially on a short slate where we only have 5 games and 10 teams to choose from. Let's see. The next guy up is Chris Heston. Heston's not really a guy that I like to target, but I think there are a couple bats you can look at here. Left-handed bats have been doing the best against him. 259 average, 5 home runs, and 58 innings pitched. You got guys like Kyle Schwarber, who's been absolutely on fire. 477 WOBA, 281 ISO. I know he had 2 hits in his first 2 at bats yesterday. I didn't see how he ended up on the day. One of those was a home run though, so he's got power. He's been showing it off. Offensively, this guy is a stud Major League Baseball player. So he's definitely somebody you can put in. The other guy you can look at is Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo's starting to heat up again. Like we said, he went about a month without a home run, and he's got 3 or 4 of them already in the last week since then. 384 WOBA, 256 ISO number. He's one of the best first basemen in the game. He gets on base a ton, has a huge on base percentage, doesn't strike out, low K percentage. I mean, he's definitely a kind of guy that you do want on your roster. And I think you can look at both of those left-handed bats trying to get them into your lineup today. I know some people are also going to talk about like maybe a Dexter Fowler. If he's cheap, I don't mind him. I think you can run a little bit on this Giants team, depending who's catching. So if he gets on base, he could be somebody that's off to the races. You also could look at a guy like Chris Coughlin, who's a left-handed bat that, has been finding his way up as high as the 3-hole lately in this lineup. If they go with that lineup that they've been going with lately, they throw 4 lefties up on top. They start with Fowler, go to Schwarber. Coughlin's been hitting 3rd, followed by Rizzo. So it'll be interesting to see if that's the way they decide to go with this again here today, because left-handed bats have been the way to go after Chris Heston. Let's see. On the other side of that game, you got Jason Hamill. Now, this one's tough to me because I really kind of like Hamill. He's been having a sneaky good season. Left-handers are only hitting 236 against him. Right-handers are only hitting 217 against him. So, those aren't very good numbers. That doesn't scream this is a guy that we want to target. But again, if you look at the San Francisco team, they hit so much better away from home, and they do have a lot of guys who have pretty good numbers against right-handed bats. You got Buster Posey with a 393 WOBA, 180 ISO. Hunter Pence, 380 WOBA, 223 ISO. Matt Duffy, 376 WOBA, 165 ISO. Even like a Brandon Belt, he's a lefty, 371, 218. And Joe Panic, the other one, 360, 141. So that's 5 guys right there who, just based on the numbers, all profile to do pretty well against a guy like Hamels. So like I said, I like Hamels. He's been having a good year. I don't think I'm going to be targeting him today, but I also don't know if I can target too many of these Giants bats against them. If the Giants did go off and have a big game, I wouldn't be shocked about it, but I probably won't have a good night if that happens because I don't think I'm going to be on it. And like I said, we had a short day today, so that basically wraps it up for all 10 of the games that we have. If you have any questions about the early slate, either Josh, Rath, or myself, probably be over on the RotoCurve forums or over in the RotoCurve chat room talking with some of our players about some of their questions. There's a lot of good guys over there. There's a lot of people willing to, throw out ideas and share information. So even if you just come over as a guest and check it out and, sit in the chat and soak up some knowledge, I think you'll see that the community we have over here is something that could definitely help you in your, daily fantasy games. At the very least, it gives you a place to bounce some ideas off of people and, kind of get a second opinion, have some people either talk you off a ledge or, talk you into some of the plays that you might have been considering with what they like too. So it's been going pretty well so far. We're really happy with the way everything's coming along. And remember, you can follow me on Twitter at BennyR11. You can follow the RotoCurve site at RotoCurve. You can come over to the rotocurve.com webpage. Make sure you sign up for an account. Your participation on the site helps you earn curve points that you can trade in for money on the sites to use as cash, or to trade in for a RotoCurve t-shirt or a hat, or tickets to a baseball game. All kinds of great prizes over there. So make sure you get over there. Make sure you sign up, join the community. I think you'll see that it'll really help you become a better player and get over that learning curve to profitability. So thank you guys for joining us. This has been another section of Benny's Bats. And as always, stay classy, DFS.